This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 662 with guest Kevin Schoonover. Recorded on November 6th. That's the right date, 2025. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy TV studio. Here in a beautiful, Kevin, fall is here. It's awesome, right? And this is what we live for the most part, right?
Absolutely.
Leaves are coming down. No snow yet for you, but it's coming, right?
It'll get here. Plenty of time.
Yeah, well, we are going to get some winter precipitation here in Omaha this weekend. Everybody's like, get ready. It'll be a little ice. Let's just be clear. It's not going to be much, but stay off the roads. Of course, we'll post a show with some world-class show notes, and there'll be a few notes out there out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers who support the network every single month. And if you want to join that team, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. And then if you are buying, if you're shopping on Amazon, head out to theaverageguy.tv first, click on the link, push it through, network benefits from those purchases as well. So many thanks to you who've been doing that. And then big thanks to Gavin Campbell, who joined me last week. Gavin, I'm sorry. We were talking with you last Thursday. It looked like the Blue Jays were going to win the World Series. Didn't go that way. Kevin, you follow the World Series at all this year?
Not a huge baseball fan, but I did follow the World Series. It was fun watching. I had hoped and thought the Blue Jays would pull it off as well. Yeah,
I'm not a big Dodgers fan. I'm a Giants fan, so you have to hate the Dodgers. Not just not like them, you have to hate them. You wish all kinds of, the curses of Mordor and all those things upon them, right? So, Gavin, sorry that we were hoping too. Last week when we were on, the games were Friday and Saturday, and we were hoping all I had to do is win one of two. Sorry. Anyways, Gavin, thanks for coming on. Always great to have you there. Kevin Schoonover's hanging out with me tonight. Kevin, last time you were on, by the way, you're looking very fit. So
thank you.
I need to, I know you're doing some work on that side health-wise. It's good to see you upright and good to see you healthy. I could probably use a few extra less than I have. Is it, has it been a dietary change for you? What's been the key to your fit success?
It has been dietary. It also is pulling exercise into the equation a bit more. Yeah. And trying to think now exactly when it hit is I did, can't remember if it was 2019 or 2020, late in the year, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And the regimen, you head down that way to get your sugars in order. The medications do a lot of either sort of appetite suppressant kind of things. So I'm doing well on my own, but candidly, a lot of the medications they put you on for type 2 diabetes really help. They can be a little hard on you. You got to kind of weigh things out a bit, but it does. It kind of all flows through the process. So it's been good across the board that way. Sugar numbers or A1Cs are where they should be, and hopefully things keep going the way they go.
We've known you for a long time. You and I have been hanging out for a long time. It's good to we want it to be a few more years.
I hear you.
So good on you for that. And I am really rigorous about my. I could probably drop a few myself. I think we all could, and maybe not you at this point, but the rest of us probably could. But I'm real careful with my dad had type 2, and so I could be susceptible to it. And so I make sure my annual physical, I check those sugar numbers, right? I check all those on a regular basis. Make sure I have a lot of conversations with the doctor. There's a term they call that pre-diabetes.
Pre-diabetes, yep.
Yeah, yep. When you're getting there. So gentlemen, much like when I was going through my prostate issues, don't mess around with diabetes. You can prevent it, and you can do some things different. If you do get there, as Kevin can attest, there's some things you can do to help.
Absolutely.
And help manage that. So, looking good. Okay, Kevin, a couple times ago, you were on. You talked about the Slate EV pickup. Now,
Yep.
EV, listen, conversations around EVs have changed drastically in the last year, right? I mean, it went from being the darling of the industry to Ford saying recently, yeah, I mean, they had that, the plant that they did a lot of their aluminum processing in burned down recently. And they're like, I think they're like, well, this is a good excuse to say we're not going to build the F-150 Lightning anymore. They call that thing, I was listening today, they call that thing the Model T of the EV industry, right? They were putting big bets on their F-150 Lightning. They may not build anymore, or very few of those. But you've been keeping your eye on the Slate, right? Small, not a lot of, and I'll throw the link to it in chat. What keeps you? You put a deposit down. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the $50 gets you in line for a unit. They're not looking at production till, I would say at this point, probably 2027. What a lot of it comes down to for me is needs analysis around vehicles. What do you really need? We tend to keep our vehicles for a long time, put a lot of miles on them, wear them out. A couple of years ago, our main driver was a Mazda CX-9 2010 with 230,000 miles on it. Decided to replace that with a 2023 CX-9. Oddly enough, first time in my life I ever replaced a vehicle with the exact same model. So that's kind of the family, my wife's car, so to say. My son has a Ford Fusion. He's off at college now, so that's his ride. And then for years, we've had an Expedition EL, the big Ford, be similar in size to a Suburban, which was always handy for plenty of room in the back to haul compost down to the compost site. If we went on a road trip, we got 2 fairly good-sized dogs. Unfortunately, we're down to 1 dog now. And it got me thinking is, instead of running that all the time, maybe a small pickup. If I look at the stuff that I'm doing in my personal life, the guys I hang out with tend to call these smaller pickups, the grocery getter. You hop in and run errands with it and do things with it. You don't necessarily need a big vehicle for. So I'm going through the process right now of trying to determine what my overall needs are, and if this fits. Of course, adding a third vehicle to our lineup here, that it would be an expensive insurance. So we're kind of weighing out what would all fit. The EV side of it, I find interesting. When we bought the last Mazda CX-9, was really thinking that might be a time to go the EV route. But at the time, my mother-in-law and father-in-law were still alive, and my wife was making weekly trips, sometimes twice a week, back into Wisconsin where they were from. And literally were no charging stations anywhere along the way, and it just looked at that. And also, I see EV as, the realistic side of it. Up here, when it gets cold, your batteries don't last as long. One of the local news stations did a really good story on that. So I think EV is still a great route for a lot of people. And, to me, the Slate is kind of the grocery getter, go run errands, go do things. I actually really, so even though the CX-9 that we just picked up a couple of years ago, it's loaded. It has all the features and all the functions on it. But the Slate I find appealing because there are no features and no functions on it.
Yeah, this is really the Nissan truck of the 90s, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it's and did I see on the site that they're projecting mid-20s for this thing?
They're hoping and thinking they can keep it around 20 grand. So we'll see how close they come to that.
Well, I mean, if that's a starting spot, and you could, let's say, you get it 2 years from now and you're talking 25 or 26, that's still really manageable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially for a new EV. I love the grocery getter idea. I mean, for me, we've been thinking about getting a truck for a while, and then eventually we like, well, let's just put a towing hitch on the Outback. and we'll get a trailer, right? That's probably a cheap way to go. But I'd forgotten about the Slate, and this is one of those kinds of things, you like. I'm assuming the $50 is refundable, and even with that, I mean, I think the Tesla truck was $500.
Yep.
Was that right? Was that right? Do I remember that? I think was it that much, or was it 100?
I think it was 100.
100.
I don't recall offhand. Yeah. Well, and recently, what kind of got me thinking about the Slate again too was just, I hate to say buying a vehicle from a hobby point of view, but they haven't released a lot yet, but because it won't have any entertainment system or any speaker system or anything in it, they're starting to release like a phone holder for the dash, because they realize, hey, most people are just going to use their phone in here anyway for navigation and entertainment. And then the discussion was, well, what about Bluetooth speakers? And could you 3D print mounts for Bluetooth speakers? And then Slate started kind of releasing dash panels, we will be releasing the spec around the size of them, how they mount, how they fit. So not a ton out there yet, but they're starting to get a few rumors and things riding around that their intention is to give you enough information that and some 3D print files to start with that you could modify and change things around. So I think that's kind of appealing as well.
When they first started talking about this a couple of years ago, of course, EVs we were moving in a direction, like state of California was like, everything's going to be changed over by 2030 or whatever it was. And 2032 maybe is what it was. And EVs there was a $7,500 incentive nationally here in the United States for it. It had a lot of momentum. As I mentioned before, the momentum is gone. The incentives are gone. The feelings about them, except for the enthusiasts. I have a whole bunch. Listen, I know I have a whole bunch of EV enthusiasts that listen to the show. You're all screaming at me right now. Oh no, don't go, don't go down that way. Kevin, even with those headwinds, do you think there's a space for this? Especially, a couple comments out in chat. Let me bring those in real quick. Tony said he wanted a Ridgeline, but his family mocked him on that one. Well, that's the other one. The Ridgeline's the other direction. That couldn't be more of a bigger of a gas car. But Brian says if they can keep it around 20, that's really, really reasonable. And then Tony makes a good point. He says the Ford Maverick starts around 28 or so. That's pretty small, right? I mean, that Maverick has been, they're actually kind of hard to find here in this area. Like, they don't stock them here because they want to sell, like, Nebraskans want the big trucks, right?
Very good friend of mine has a Maverick. He loves it. He and I took a little road trip in it. It's a nice vehicle for a sub 30 grand. And again, you're not going to haul a ton in it. But interesting. So I had lunch today back in Western Wisconsin with some of the guys I grew up with, and the place we met at, a lot of diesel pickups out in the parking lot. And they need those for the jobs they have and the things they do. But we started talking a little bit about this, and one of the guys runs a construction company. And as we were talking about the Slate, he's kind of like, that would almost be perfect for when I am running between sites, or I'm moving parts back and forth between things. And we got on it because he was mentioning is getting a Maverick or getting something smaller like that to be able to run around and take care of some of this stuff. So I think these days, and to any folks watching this, and I said it today to these guys, is if you are anti-EV, I don't want to argue with you about it until you go drive one. So if you haven't drove one, then go drive one. And I think it's not going to knock your socks off and win you over, but I think you'll realize that the acceleration, the way they drive, the way they handle, it is really smooth. And I've yet to find anybody who test drove one and could give any negative feedback about it. It mainly evolves then into range and battery life and how a lot of those things end up, playing into it. But if you haven't drove one, go give one a ride. Go give it a try.
The standard battery is looking like 150 miles projected, and then the extended battery 240 miles. That doesn't concern you at all. I mean, if again you're driving it around town. I mean, I'll be honest. My commute is like 12 miles.
Yep.
Maybe 15 if I go the back way, right? And I could go. I could make a couple tricks before I need to charge it and drive it to work.
Yep.
I would, I'm in a situation. I love my Legacy. I have a Subaru Legacy. I love that car. I mean, it's just a great travel car. We're getting ready to go and we're going to make a trip out west or out east here in the next couple of weeks. And I hate giving that up. So, it truly becomes a third vehicle for us, in a lot of ways.
Right.
And so, you got to kind of justify it. I could crypto it, to be honest. Like that would be at 20, even at 25, you start thinking like, well, that's not a bad crypto expenditure, for something like that. So the range doesn't bother you at all?
For my use case, it doesn't, because I'm really looking at it for back and forth to the 2 churches that I'm, acting as facilities manager for. It's all those short hops, running to Menards and picking up some stuff and running local errands, back and forth, which, if you want to really get picky about it, those are the kind of miles that my Expedition EL is just gobbling up gas because, I'm, taking these short, quick runs to do things. But I'm just looking at it from kind of an ease of use and that kind of function. And it's appealing to me from the simplicity of the vehicle as well.
Yeah. Towing capacity of about 1,000 pounds. So not a lot. And then max payload of around 1,400 pounds. I think we've kind of seen from the other EVs that are out there, boy, it's tough to beat a diesel when you think about towing or you think about capacity, right? And even then gas too, from that perspective. But this isn't your heavy duty work truck, right?
Agreed. And it's interesting on that subject as well is when I was a kid growing up on the farm, we everybody ended up with 4-wheel drive pickups, and diesel wasn't big at that point in time. We're talking late 70s. And everybody had a 3/4 ton pickup, and we used them like tractors because we owned farmland that was a little bit away from the home farm. So that worked out great. And I've got a 28-foot fifth wheel gooseneck trailer that sets down on the family farm. Use it for hauling tractors and different things that way. And over time, all of my family that is still farming, they all have 1-ton pickups, which is really the right size to have with diesel engines, because you're pulling a 28,000 GVW trailer. You really want more up in front of that. And, to really get into it, like one of the guys having lunch today, all of his stuff is like 5,500 Dodge Rams, with big diesel engines in them. So I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but we kind of went through of, well, hey, this 4-wheel drive pickup is good enough to do this. And then realizing I'm burning this thing up by trying to make it be a tractor or trying to make it be a small semi truck. So now the right sizing of that is people buying, kind of the right vehicle for the purpose.
Right on. Joe says out in chat, he says my wife ordered a Maverick in 22. I think it was a little over 24 out the door. Very reasonable. I mean, it's a good price point. And then Tony says the truck most of us need, but don't want. And there's something very appealing to this for me. Like as I saw this, as I was prepping for the show, I saw you had mentioned this. I was like, oh, that's right. And then I took a look at the new pictures, and I'm like, well, I keep eyeing, around town. I keep eyeing these 90s and early 2000 Nissan or Toyota. They were still small, right?
Yep.
And and you're like, I bet I could get that for a couple $1,000. Now I'm going to put some money into it to keep it running, right? From that standpoint, but for the grocery getter, for the trip to Menards, for the, for those kinds of things. I'll be honest, like in the Subaru, I can put the seats down and I've put 12 to 15 landscaping timbers in my Subaru.
Yep.
and it's a champ. Like Sammy said to me the other day, she's like, I have never seen a sedan look like a truck as much as you use that thing that way, right?
Oh yeah.
And I love it for that, right? It's super, super convenient.
Well, and to that point, again, the Slate is out there a ways. I've kind of been contemplating picking up a small pickup, just like you're talking about, to kind of prove the concept out. Is this going to, be my errand vehicle, my grocery getter, and will that function for me? And then when the Slate comes out, that'll help me decide to jump on it or not.
Yeah.
So
I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is with the tides turning against it and it's still not out. I know they're taking $50. I know it's completely refundable, but do you think they'll make it to the finish line on this thing? Like at some point, does some investor go, yeah, boy, the market's not really there anymore for something like this, it would have been a couple years ago.
It's a great question. And I noticed the other day, the EV vehicle that I thought was doing well is I think it's pronounced Rivian.
Yeah,
Rivian. They just announced a bunch of layoffs. Yep. So, yep. It's a good question. I think I'm not a fan of Jeff Bezos, but Bezos is one of the big backers of the Slate. And it seems like he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder to be a successful EV car company. Okay. So,
well, Elon just got $1 trillion pay package today. Yeah. So, I bet there's a little, size comparison going on right now, right? In pay packages, of course, pay packages, right? Of course.
Absolutely.
And so, you got to kind of wonder, I didn't know, I've forgotten Bezos was in on this Slate thing. So, well, be interesting to see what turns out. I may keep my eye on it. I may drop $50. I mean, I put 100 on the Cybertruck, got it back, and my daughter was never more. By the way, my daughter will be back on the show Friday after Thanksgiving. So
nice.
If you want to join us live, she'll come out for that. But she was never more happy that I didn't buy that truck. Not sure she could have called me her dad if I was driving after all the things that were happening politically. Yeah.
And in part, so for me, even forgetting about the political aspect of it, the Cybertruck, and a friend of mine and I have this argument about, why do you care what it looks like? You're not looking at it, you're driving it. Mm-hmm. And I get that, but it is not the most appealing looking vehicle to me. And then the really candid reviewers of it, like Consumer Reports and some other folks, just found it's not a very good all-wheel drive vehicle. Yeah. It's not, for the size and the cost and you'd have to really be in love with it. And, it just doesn't check all those boxes for me. Right. And obviously they've got a lot of them sitting around right now. So I think a lot of folks have decided that this is not really what they had hoped for or wanted. So,
well, maybe they'll make them cyber taxis. You never know. You never know. Well, I'll have to keep my ie on this. I'm tempted to drop a deposit on I may at some point, if they offer, I may be like, nah. Not, but it would be kind of foolish for $50. It would be kind of foolish if you're thinking about something like that. Lock it in so you've got it. You can always say no to it when the opportunity comes around. I may do that. So maybe you'll talk me into that. And I'd love a little tiny pickup. I kind of like the scrappy, me. I kind of like the little scrappy, and I'm always up for a good deal, right? So that in the 20s is a pretty good deal indeed. All right, speaking of deals. We are at the end of the life of Windows 10 machines, right? And I'm sure in your fix-it clinics and some of the things that you're doing with that, I'm sure you're seeing people are asking you questions like, do I need to upgrade to Windows 11? Do I need to, what are the things that I need to do? If you listen to the show, you know what you need to do. But I found it interesting, and I had done this maybe a year or so ago as I was looking at upgrading. I had a box that I knew was not going to upgrade to Windows 11. Now I found a hack that got it onto Windows 11. But you've been thinking about using Linux Mint, And that's been a pretty popular distro, right? To move away from Windows if you need to, or repurpose the box. What have you found attractive about that?
It's, to me, it seems to be the most stable desktop Linux product for the majority of users. And the whole Linux desktop thing, on one hand, nothing has changed. If you have an application you have to use for your personal life or your work life that doesn't run on Linux, it's not great. There are emulators and there are some other tools out there. But one of the things I look at that to me drives some of this is my kid has a gaming PC for Steam and some other games that he has. But his daily driver is a Chromebook, because being a, 2 years out of, or 3 years out of high school and even in college, everything is web-based. So a bit of the idea is, kind of positioning Linux Mint almost from a Chromebook kind of point of view. Do I really have other things that I need to run on this, and what else can I do with it? Some of the motivation as well is a friend of mine is fairly adamant about kind of cutting the strings from folks like Apple and Microsoft, and getting onto something that is more for the user to control and work from that point of view as well. So I've seen a lot of good things that way. The other thing that I just over the past 2 weeks have been kind of looking into is a little bit from a security point of view, is encouraging and helping people, hey, turn BitLocker on. It's good to have your local drive encrypted, and trying to always understand the work-throughs of if my computer did die and I needed to pull that drive out that is BitLocker encrypted. In the past, it's never been too much of a problem to put that into a different machine, as long as you're using the same user ID and Microsoft account and everything to pull back into that. I've not experienced it, but I've seen some users pointing out that, hey, it seems like BitLocker in Windows 11 and the integration in Windows 11 with OneDrive has gotten kind of weird. The OneDrive in Windows 11, it hasn't been a problem for me because I have embraced OneDrive as my cloud backup. And I think, Jim, you and I talked about some of that comes down to the family plan for Office 365.
For sure.
It's
hard to ignore it. Yeah,
it's a good deal if you need that many subscriptions, and the amount of OneDrive storage you get with it is a good deal. If you're not that into it, it's difficult to turn it off and make it go away. But what I've noticed from a few folks that's been popping up lately, it ends up being some concerns over how BitLocker and Windows 11 integrate into the TPM in the machine that you're running on, and how much that kind of locks things up and locks things in. So again, there's I have not run into too many negatives on my own, but just the Windows 11 is pushing more data up to Microsoft. That is kind of an irritation. And I'm probably waffling a bit here between the personal end user aspect of Windows 11. Friends of mine who still work in IT, from an enterprise point of view, they're kind of like, wow, this is this is kind of difficult to manage how this is working from that point of view. So I think it just kind of opens the door again for, if you want to try something else, give Linux a look.
Yeah. Especially, I think, like a second computer sitting on your desk that may be older, that you really just use for browsers, or you use for, to access a few things. And, boy, Linux Mint will breathe some new life into, and there's a bunch of different distros on this, right? There's Tiny, and they've got as many Fedora. I mean, they have as many out there as you can kind of name, I'm sure there's a Schoondoggy Linux that's out there that's available, a white labeled Linux distributions. Put your own name on it, right? We'll keep it up to date. But it is, Kevin, I the thing that's always stopped me on Linux is you get on it and then you go to that one thing that you had before, and it, you're like, but today, I tell you what, it's gotten super simple, right? For a lot of things. Although that being said, some of my, some of the, the battery stuff that I've been using or whatever does have some Mac or Windows integrations into it. And they're definitely not making those for Linux right now.
Right.
So you're kind of always like, I don't know. But I even tried an Android. So I tried an Android distro for x86. So it was basically a Chromebook, right? From that standpoint. But on x86, you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, it's so, as much as we complain about Windows, we know it. Right? We know where to go, what to do. File sharing works, all those other things. So I don't know.
Yeah. And it kind of depends on, the other aspect. I tend to have a computer laying around or sort of the grab and go device, something that I'll take to a coffee shop with me. And I was starting to notice with that type of device, it's 100% web-based again. I don't run Outlook on it because I didn't really want to have email stored on it. I just use webmail, and it's mostly browsing. And any apps that I probably would have used on it anyway, I take from a web point of view. So I'm next week I'm planning on starting a bit of an experiment to say, here's a Linux Mint machine. Let me run until I find something that I have to try to emulate or try to do something else with, and see where I fare and how it docks in. But I think there are a lot of users out there who run into the thing of thinking about buying a new laptop, but now that I think about it, I don't really need Windows that bad. And where do you go?
Yeah. And to be honest with you, you can run Windows 10 for a little while longer. Like it's not like it's going away or it's going to lock up on you. Tony said his 2014 home built Haswell PC running Windows 11 just fine. Yeah. There was kind of a window in there where you could, even though the TPM requirements were there, you could upgrade. There were some hacks behind the scene. You get these upgrade, get it working. Microsoft, for the most part, has locked a lot of those down now. And you're like, I even have one that I hacked on it, but then it was trying to do an upgrade and it was checking TPM, and I can't get past the TPM check. I'm sure there's a reg edit I can do to make it work, but I was like, it's a file server. I don't know if it needs to be updated all that much with Windows. And then I was like, okay, if this gets to be a problem, I'll just put Open Media Server on it. And because it's just a file server, that's all it does. That's been Open Media Vault has been a really good file server for me, for doing some of the crypto stuff that I do. So I guess the point is there's still some really great options out there, which is, and listen, here's the weird part. Mac is getting cheaper. Like all of a sudden, like they're in a race to the bottom on some of these. They're talking about releasing a $500 machine here that's, it's running on the A14 chip that's in your phone, right? But I think, all of a sudden, you're like, well, and then of course, Microsoft's making a run, on an ARM version of Windows that may be, I know we've been talking about this since Windows 8, but the ARM version of Windows may be ready. Like it may finally be ready for prime time. So we've got that option as well.
And, I was looking, if I was investing in a new laptop or Surface kind of device today, the ARM-based Windows stuff, the battery life is phenomenal. The performance is phenomenal. And frankly, the majority of stuff that I think I would ever need to use with it seems to kind of fall in the category of, that it's there. It's functioning and working. Was going to throw out too, if any, just from past life I had in OEM embedded systems, websites like productkeys.com that sells Microsoft and other legit licenses for dirt cheap. And I'm definitely one who does not deal in fake licenses or hacked licenses. So these guys have been legit. Don't know where all their sources are. But there are long life versions of Windows 10. And you can, it's a bit dated now, but there are, some of these long life versions will have, some of them are good out to 2027. Some of them are good out to 2032. So if you really hung up on wanting a legit copy of Windows 10 and you don't want to change, you can go look into those. And I think I've not tried them lately myself, never had really a problem with them in the past. They're kind of designed more for embedded systems, but I don't think you'd run into a problem with them.
Yeah, another option if you need it. I think for most people, I don't know. This is a good question. Listen, we're in this weird spot with hardware where this may be, there's a lot of options out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're thinking about devices and what it does and where it is for you and what do you want it to do. I run a Mac Mini M4 for the podcast studio. That's by far the most current system I have, but not far behind it is an AMD Ryzen 5. It's got a 3060 card in it. That was from a couple years ago. 128 gig of RAM, which I'm really glad that I bought then an upgrade right from the very beginning. But I've got some old, I'm running Unraid on a Dinosaur 7. What do we call those? Core i7.
Mm-hmm.
And then the machine actually, you sent me some hard drive enclosures for 3 bay to 5 bay.
Oh, sure. Yep.
You sent those to me a while back, and that thing is a tank. It's so heavy. I think it has 13 hard drives in it, maybe 15, and it's just super heavy. That's the Windows 10 box. That could be something different, right? That's a Core i3 530, right? Still running Windows 10. Now I upgraded it to 11, and that's the one that's stuck on the TPM thing.
Oh, sure.
That's gotta be a decade old, maybe more, right? And so, but when I think about options for that, all of a sudden, your Linux, and it could be Mint, but it could be Fedora. It could be any of those. There's a bunch out there, right? Unraid is an option if I want to turn it into an Unraid server. I'm going to pay for that, right, to get it done. This new open media vault that I've been trying out free. It's this guy in Germany doing this thing, which is super cool. It's Linux based, right? It's weird because I think we thought at one point, we were doing all this stuff 10 years ago. And then, Media Center went away and Windows Home Server went away. And, I think we thought everything funneled down. There are still a ton of options out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Get the stuff done. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So, in the work that you're doing with the Fix-It Clinic and some of those, do you get PCs and stuff in there as well? Do people try to, is there a tech angle to we talked about that last time you were right? People bringing lamps and blenders and coffee machines. Do they try to bring PCs in, and do you have that?
A little bit. A couple of guys. I think all of us are pretty well versed in PC repair. I was actually surprised that we don't see a lot of PCs coming in. Yeah. And the environmental center, I realized I could never work in the environmental center because of the number of PCs they get, and I'd spend all day going, "Why do you really want to get rid of this? Why do you want to get rid of this?" There's also a little bit of phobia in the whole recycling world about PCs, and I think everybody on this group kind of realizes if you're going to recycle a PC, just pull the hard drive out of it. There's this confidentiality aspect around hard drives, and I coach people to kind of stay in that sense, but that's one of the things we've talked about when I talk to some of the folks at the environmental center. We've talked a little bit about offering up classes kind of back to the Linux Mint kind of thing is, bring in a PC and we'll show you how to give it a try, and maybe we just give out USB sticks to get them going and give it a shot and see if they like it, and they can always flip back if they don't want to. So, it kind of works out. But yeah, we get some, not nearly as much as I had thought we would see.
Listen, I think not this audience, but most of the rest of the world has moved on, right?
Yep.
They're on their phones.
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is the audience who still owns that stuff. Most people it's an iPad or an Android tablet or a phone, and they're doing their PC stuff at work if they have to, right? From that perspective. So I think now I say that, and there's still, millions of PCs being sold every year, but I think most of those are going into the enterprise, right? I mean,
they are, but even in the enterprise, when we were just talking about Windows 11, one of the corporate IT guys that I'm friends with, and we were chatting probably 3 weeks ago now, their motivation is, hey, wait a minute, is there anything we're really doing that would require, who really needs a PC?
yeah.
And they're starting to look at, in the past, every sales rep had a laptop. Now they're realizing those guys pretty much do everything on their phone, or maybe it's a tablet. And he just finished a little project of playing around with tablets and docking stations to, get a keyboard and a mouse and a big monitor on a tablet. And maybe that becomes your whole compute device. Yeah. And in their world, it's turning into the accounting department needs laptops, or, needs a real computer. And some of the inside sales reps need a real computer. But pretty much everybody else is probably going to start going with just a tablet and a phone.
The one exception, though, Kevin, on this, and I've noticed this recently. So the other day, my laptop was running a little sluggish at work. And I was like, I haven't had this thing that long. And I know it had 16 gig of RAM when they gave it to me, which was a lot for a while, right? 16, it's amazing. Like, oh yeah, I'm good for a while, right? So I pull out the old task manager and go to the system resource monitor. It's pegged. I'm at 15.4.
Wow.
Like, what is happening here? Like, so I start looking at it. All the security stuff that I have, like corporate security stuff, is just running away with the resources. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you keeping me safe. But it's literally like if I had 20 bodyguards around me at all times, and I was trying to work in the yard, and I'm trying to mow the yard, and they're like, oh, sorry, excuse me. Okay, let me get out of Okay, let me get out of your way. And you're like, hey, could you just make a path? And they're like, oh, but we have to keep you safe. Nobody can, we can't let anybody get to you or see you in this process. And you're like, guys, I can't get any work done, right? The other piece that was really surprising is the AI. Like in browser AI, like I don't know what kind of wizardry those guys are doing now with the browser, but it's not like I use OpenAI stuff a lot. We have I have a subscription to it for work and those kinds of things. And as soon as I start OpenAI, I hear the fans come on. That's you're like, So I think the arms race quietly escalated on resources, and I'm not sure we were paying attention enough. And I have a Core i5 box with 16 gig of RAM, which should be just fine. It's not. Anymore,
Yeah, great analogy about trying to mow your lawn with a bunch of people hanging around you. That is it. So a few years ago now, but the last corporate kind of environment I was in, I knew that smaller company in the IT department, very small, and a little bit of paranoia. And other than just the traditional security stuff, they were dabbling quite a bit in keystroke, activity monitoring type of stuff. And I had to, and I've always kind of taken the tact as a manager with employees is, hey, here's what we expect you to be doing and when you're doing it. And, oh, by the way, this is a work laptop, so don't be doing personal stuff on it. And, oh, by the way, corporate IT is probably keeping an eye on what you're doing.
For sure they are. Yes,
But the other aspect of that I started looking at, just with light noodling while I was on a Zoom call, I brought up Task Manager and started looking at the apps that I knew were on my computer from the point of view of kind of keeping an eye on what is going on. And those are resource hogs on top of everything else.
Yeah, they literally don't care. Like,
yep.
It's get the job done, secure you. I do not care how much resources they take.
Yep.
And I'm going to be running all the time. Just by the way, you're never going to have any of it. You're like, hey guys, I'm trying to get some work done. I just want to open an Excel spreadsheet. That's all I want to do. I need some work done. Could you help me out here? Or I want to, insert the name of the web app that I use. And those security apps are like, and the average guy isn't even aware of it anymore. We just it had gotten so good for a while. And I kind of wonder, with all the issues that we've had with ransomware and malware and those kinds of things, I kind of wonder if we've gone to, we're going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Instead of hey, can we compromise on security and actually functionality? I think now it's it's the old Soviet Union, you will take it and you will like it. Kind of
it is what it is, and this is what you're going to deal with it. Yep.
You're going to take it. Just get along. Just figure it out. Hey, Secret Squirrel in chat asked this great question though. I kind of a little bit back to what we were talking about before, and he said, when we think about, I think this is the question. Yeah. These days, did I get the right one? I didn't get the right one. There it is. He says, these days, how easy is it to integrate, say, an audio interface or a sound card with Linux, right? And he attempted 10 years ago, there were too many layers to return for return on investment. Do you think Linux has got this, going back to it? They've got most of these problems solved, right? As far as sound or video or an audio interface or a webcam kind of things, right?
It definitely much better. And I think the thing that I have come to find is, especially in sound, even though they're not the top quality chipset out there, I'd say almost every laptop or desktop PC, the audio that comes with it is from Realtek, and it's just built into a little IO chip in there. So the downside is it's not the greatest audio in the world. The good side is it's consistent. Yeah. So almost everybody has this same Realtek chip. So that has made it nicer for the Linux folks to be able to, standardize on that environment. So I think it's gotten a lot easier. It's a good question, because in one of my computers, I'm going to be swapping out to try Linux on it. It is using an Asus audio card that I like, because that audio card has a optical output on it that I can tie straight into a stereo system. So good question. I will put it on Discord when I figure out if that's going to work or not.
Yeah. I think most of these integrated systems that we have are going to be just fine in those. Every time I've done it on an old laptop or some of those kinds of things, it's worked out just fine for the most part. Gone are the days, I think, on Linux, gone are the days of I need a driver. I just don't, in the last couple, Linux distributions that I've done, I just haven't run into those same kind of driver issues. But your hardware may vary, right?
Yep.
So, buyer beware, from that standpoint. And listen, if you have an old sound card from 15 years ago, it's, but I gotta have my sound blaster. Secret Squirrel, I know that's not what you're talking about, but it's just fun to say sound blaster. If you got an old sound blaster from 15 years ago or 20 years ago, those, we tend to hold on. We paid a lot of money for some of those kinds of things.
Oh wow, yeah,
they're gone now, right? I mean, they don't work anymore for the most part. And you're like, so.
And in cases where if you have something special that you need, almost all those guys, Creative is still out there with their stuff, but it tends to be USB based now. And, you're just plugging it in, and the standard driver set from Linux seems to work with that okay. But it's a good question.
Yeah, you mentioned in your notes you've been working as a kind of a facilities manager job, just kind of on the side, right? You're kind of retired and you've been working on this, getting some shot at some HVAC stuff. Then you mentioned that Google's dropping support for Gen 1 and Gen 2 thermostats, right? When you think about HVAC, I think I've said this on the show before, but I'll say it before. When I had the air conditioning replaced 2 years ago, I asked the guy, old school HVAC guy, ask him, hey, I'm thinking about putting a smart thermostat in. And he goes, I said, do you do that? And he goes, no. I'm like, really? Are you that fast? And he's like, yeah. He goes, no. He goes, I don't like them. There's too many things that go wrong with them. When they don't work, they blame us. They blame the equipment we put in, not the hardware on this kind of thing. And then Kevin, the question I have for you, like we're to a point where generations of these things matter. Like you've put this in your home to control your HVAC, and now they're saying, yeah, we're not going to ship any more updates. And you're like I've got a programmable one from Honeywell from like 15 years ago. That works awesome. Right? You push a button, it heats. You push another button, it cools. You can move the temperature up and down. Are we going to run into there's going to be this weird upgrade cycle with these thermostats, right? That HVAC stuff we only really touch every 30 years, right? Today, right? For the most part.
Yeah. Great question. And that's so, and if it was just kind of frozen in time or something, I don't think I'd have been quite as irritated. But the Google thing is the Gen 1 and Gen 2 Nest products. They're out of the app. So I think it was October 25th. It just grayed out in the app. So they killed it from the point of view, and to me that was the smart thermostat was a little bit of the trending aspect of it. Does it know when I'm in the house or out of the house? What are my setbacks, my ranges, all that cool kind of stuff. And I get technology doesn't last forever, but to me, I think vendors need to look at it from more of a frozen point in time is, we're not going to add new stuff to this. We're not going to update it anymore. But the idea that they pulled it out of the app really kind of irritated me. Now, they gave they gave us all about a half price coupon to get the latest, greatest Nest thermostat. And I was kind of considering not doing it, but I like the integration of Nest with, I still have 3 smoke detectors that are Nest Protects. Right. And those are good till 2030 something, because I just replaced those a couple years ago. So for that synergy point of view, I thought, all right, for $150, I'll go ahead and stay in the Google camp. But then it actually brought up that the Nest thermostat was, and it's this: are you using the Nest app or are you using Google Home app? Right. So I bring up Google. It kind of points to me that I have to use Google Home now. All right, I'll use Google Home. So I get the new thermostat in, get it up and running, get it all worked out. It's working great. And I go in as I'm looking through the Google Home app, my old thermostat is still there. It's just grayed out. So I look for a way to remove it. And finally I hit, search to find out, how I get rid of my old thermostat from the app. And the answer is, you have to bring up the Nest app and and delete it in the Nest app. Oh my gosh. And I'm kind of like, you guys, you're not winning me over that this is the cool way to do things when you're telling me I have to put the new one in the Google app, and if I want to clear out the old one, I have to go do that in the old app.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of Paul Thurrott and Leo Laporte on Windows Weekly lately, and they've come up with this term, enshittification, right? Like you take something good and you just eventually, even though there was no reason to make it bad, you just make it bad by default. People have to move on, right? They have to move away from it. And, it's just, to me, it'd be like, I have 4 Ring cams and they work great, but Ring wants to add more features, they add them to their current cams. They want to add them in the app and they're like, hey, we don't want to support these old cameras. That's a bad user experience. Well, it's bad for you. It's not bad for me.
Right.
That thing's still working for me, And they say, you got to buy 4 new cameras, right? To make this, if you want it, you got to buy 4 new cameras. And you're like, I don't know. That doesn't feel very good. Listen, we experienced this on the PC and on the phone side. I mean, I had an iPhone 12. I got the AirPods. I wanted the translation. I had to upgrade. So, there's that. But I get it, but I don't know, HVAC. I just would expect that to be a little longer, maybe, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's indicative of how we look at a lot of these tech companies. The best example of somebody really doing this poorly, but then again doing it okay, is Sonos. I've got Sonos in every room in my house. Mine works great. If there are any Sonos users, here, it's always this big fight about, many Sonos users get mad when I point out that a lot of the problems might be their network, and that just doesn't settle well. But it is a network device. But for those not familiar, just a quick deal is, a few years ago, Sonos was really trying to push to kill off some of the older products. And they had a program where they'd give you a 30% off on new products, and they were going to brick your old product. And they told you, hey, we'll put it in recycle mode. We'll send you a box. You can send it and recycle it. And some people embraced that. Others didn't like it. And their point was, and you could kind of see it if you look at all the Sonos product line and the amount of memory and the processor performance and the amount of ROM storage space for apps, you could kind of see why they picked the oldest units they picked. There were things that they had to do in software, and Sonos is a product that networks across all speakers in your house. So in the end, they locked down the original app, called it S1, and all those devices still work on S1. Now, the problem is all new devices work on S2, and S1 and S2 don't talk to each other. So I get it. But I think the direction Sonos has gone in now is there's a whole mid-range of products that will work on either app. And, I use the example, they're getting more granular around the fact that, so the S2 app supports high-res audio. Okay, that's cool for some folks, but not all speakers that work on the S2 app support high-res audio. So you have to get your decoder rings out and understand that, yes, because I'm running the S2 app, I could do high-res audio, but not all of my speakers are going to support it. So it gets confusing. It gets really tough for the consumer to try and understand.
But their experience on the backside is in client support or in their support lines, when people who aren't enthusiasts are trying to make all this stuff work. They don't know. They don't have the Captain Crunch decoder ring to be like, right. And then like, why can't you just make this thing work? I just spent $1,000 on this speaker. Like, I expect it to work. And they're like, well, I'm sorry. We've been transitioning through some things, and we tried to give you a better deal, and to get you this to work the best, to get S2 to work best as possible, we had to, it couldn't work with S1. It's just the way it is. But they don't care. So then they're, right. I mean, it's the tyranny of fast. I mean, I think we're still in fast technology development world where you just abandon stuff because it's like, this isn't gonna work anymore. And I think, by the way, we're headed to that spot with x86.
Yeah.
Like it's like friends, like those days are over. I mean, ARM is here. As soon as, Mac is on it for the most part, right? Doing what they're doing. Windows is headed that direction. Kevin, as much as we want to talk about Mint Linux, like the x86 days are over. Now Linux will hang on for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll hang on and they'll have some stuff out there, but that's not the future. And that transition from full-time x86 to Linux is going to be brutal.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be, people are going to be like, and they don't want you to understand. They just want you to upgrade. You know what? You got to get the ARM. You got to get on the ARM processor for this kind of thing. Don't ask questions. This stuff's not going to have any inoperability across PC. So it'll be interesting to see. That's one of those that day is coming, and it's coming fast. That train is coming.
Oh, it is, and some of that, a few years ago, if you would have told me that Intel would be in the financial problem they're in,
right?
would not have believed it. But a lot of it comes down to, and this, not to make a political conversation, but Taiwan Semiconductor Company is proof that the more chips you make and the more you invest in your own fabs, the tighter lithography you get, you can make chips go faster. And the fact that ARM is fabless, and ARM doesn't actually make anything, they just design architectures and other people contract. They control the patents and run through it.
Yeah,
so, so AMD realized, hey, we can't keep up on the fab bandwagon, so we're going to go to Taiwan Semiconductor Company. Yeah. Intel held out as long as they could, and they could never. I always have to look this up to remember what micron. They could never break that barrier to get beyond that, and Taiwan Semiconductor pushed right through it. So yeah, you're in a point in time right now where Taiwan Semiconductor can get more die out of a wafer than anybody else out there. South Korea is close behind. Japan's not too terribly far behind them. But Taiwan Semiconductor can pack more transistors onto a piece of die than anybody out there. So your NVIDIA AI, your NVIDIA graphic chip, which is really an AI chip now with all the stuff they're doing with it, and your ARM processor is a much smaller, much less expensive product. And really the only thing, keeping x86 alive is a lot of OS and application compliance.
Yeah. And it's horrible. Like when you start looking at the power management pieces of it, when you start thinking about, I've got my laptop, I close the lid. I have no idea what's going to happen next. Like, even though I've told it exactly what I want it to do. Now, this wasn't always this way. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Intel closed the lid, open it back up, comes right. I used to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I carry the thing around open because I don't want it to, I'm not sure what it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think we've got these are interesting times. The crazy thing about it is the PC enthusiast market is so much smaller than it used to be, right? I mean, it's just tiny.
Yeah.
So it's just a handful of us kind of talking about these things like, well, this is coming. And of course, in the enterprise, we're already talking about well, do you want a Mac? This is the first time I've heard that, hey, you're up for a new laptop. We change them out about every 3 years. You want a Mac? I was like, what? I could really? Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we'll give you one of those. Or do you want and I don't think we're quite ready yet, but in 2 or 3 years, you want an ARM laptop? For most people, they're just going to issue those. These will be fine. Just use these. It'll be fine. And we're just going to make that change so fast. In the Windows space, it's just going to Intel will just disappear. Not the company. They'll be fine. They'll come around in some way. They're big. Maybe not, but I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Intel still has lots of intellectual property, especially oddly enough around networking products. The a lot of things happening there are still very valid. I think in x86 there's a home for that kind of stuff. I think Intel.
I don't think there is, Kevin. I don't think there's a home for x86 in the future.
I think it could drift away pretty rapidly.
Yeah. I'm just not sure there is. What advantage does it bring anymore?
Well, and I think where I was heading with that, where it's going to be a big problem, is AMD definitely never got there, and Intel was trying, but the whole power conservation thing is, so laptops, how much performance do you get at what battery ratios? And they could never get the power down, which gets back to what I was just talking about with Taiwan Semiconductor Company, is if I can make things cheaper, or if I can die shrink them, I can get more performance on less power, and it really ends up being kind of a big deal. Unfortunately, it also means we're very dependent on Taiwan Semiconductor Company.
Yeah. Well, and there could be a day when Intel reinvents itself and and leaps over, right? All these technologies, sometimes they leap to the next. They just say, "Okay, we missed ARM, right? But this is where we need to go. Let's put all the research into the next version." The next thing they just pour all their money into that. So it could be very interesting. What's going on at Apple and what they're doing with their processors and the way they're controlling that, and the various versions they have that are available both on the phone and on the Mac and the Mini and on their laptop. Man, it is hard not to look at Mac or to look at Apple and go, they all of a sudden, you never know, so
I still don't trust them.
I like it. It's okay. It's okay that you don't, by the way. It's okay that you don't. So you never know. You never know on those kinds of things. Okay, last topic before we wrap this up. And I think fall, we're in the fall here in the United States or in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're in spring, if you're down in Australia or New Zealand or somewhere south, maybe South Africa. It's a good time to think about replacing the batteries in your, in all the things that you have: smoke detectors, CO2 detectors. Some of you have what's that? Radon. Yeah, radon. Yep. You might have a radon detector. You might have other things that got batteries in them. I wasn't surprised in the notes you said you're changing over to lithium. I never thought about putting a little compressed air on these things to re-wake the sensors. Talk a little bit about that, because I've never done that.
So I just noticed, again, having a dog who's very sensitive to false alarms on smoke detectors, and pulling one down and pulling the batteries out, and hey, the batteries are fine. What's wrong with this? And had this somewhat validated by my part-time work. Johnson Controls came out to check all of the detectors there, and they agreed that you should really probably once or twice a year squirt a little compressed air in the air slots on these just to get the dust out of them. Dust can trigger them from that point of view. So so I have the Nest Protect fire smoke detectors I have, they require lithium batteries. So I've always used lithium batteries in them. And I just started, hey, lithium batteries are twice as expensive as alkalines, but I have several things around the house that just the other day I was cleaning up something and a box of stuff, and inside the box was kind of a nice multimeter that I had picked up somewhere along the way, and it was one of the clamp type that you could clamp over a wire to get an amperage rating out of it. Yeah. And I did the normal, I've been looking for you. Where have you been? And I popped the back cover off, and there's my evil friend Duracell, and the contacts were all corroded. I find alkaline batteries just destroy things on a regular basis, so I've kind of sworn them off. I've got Schlage automated door locks. those don't require it, but they will drain alkaline batteries really quite rapidly, especially the big one out front that flips a deadbolt. So I run lithiums in all those. And the thing I find is back in the old days when I ran alkalines, I probably changed batteries in the spring and in the fall. And now that everything in my house is running on lithium, I change them once a year in the fall, Halloween, go through, spray down all the detectors in the house. I've got 3 Nest Protects, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. God, I forget the brand now. Not First Alert, but the other guys. They are the they're Z-Wave based, so they tie into home automation as well. But I go with lithium on all those. When I pull the lithium batteries out, it takes about 38 or 40 batteries to change all my stuff in the house. The lithiums that I'm pulling out, I do a battery check on them. They're all good. So now for the rest of the year, I've got a whole box full of used lithium batteries for TV remotes
That's a good idea.
And other things. So if you're not using the lithium, I highly recommend it. I get it. They're at least twice as expensive up front on them, but the longevity, they last, I'd say 3 times as long, and they don't damage anything. I have never had a lithium leak or have anything from an issue point of view.
Don't catch fire or anything like that.
Not that I've seen. The only time I think I ever had a problem with lithium was I had a handful of batteries. I still have some rechargeables for like gaming, console stuff, and I accidentally threw a lithium in the battery charger, and that's not a good idea. That gets really stinky and really hot really quick. So
how do you feel about rechargeable batteries in those things?
I have not had good luck with them because they don't last as long.
Low voltage, right? I mean, that's the problem with them. If they have lower voltage.
The amperage power output from them just doesn't match up. Yeah. To me, rechargeables are great for gaming and things where I'm gonna play some games, so I'm gonna go grab some fresh batteries out of the charger for my console, and away I go.
Yeah. I'm looking right now on Amazon, and the Amazon Basics 9-volt, because that's typically what you're putting in these things, right? In these smoke detectors, 9 volts.
No, all of mine are AA.
AA. I think it's probably same pricing, but let's say for an Amazon Basic 4-pack, $24, so $6 a battery. The Duracell 9-volt version of that, $350 a battery, right? So yes. Little bit under, but pretty close to double. You could go with an off-brand All-Max and get them for $5 each. So there's some options I think in there, but I like your idea of lithium. Pull it in a year, put it in the box, reuse it in a flashlight or in a right. That's kind of. I kind of have a similar pattern with, like, we have a faucet in the kitchen uses 6 AA batteries, right, for the touch, the touch thing, and it's super sensitive. As soon as that voltage drops on those things, it stops working, right? So we put those batteries are actually still pretty good, and so I'll pull them out, throw them in a box, and from a flashlights don't care for the most part. Now, you got to be careful if you're out long-term using your flashlight with those batteries. Probably not going to go too well, but for your occasional just to kind of see something, okay, good, turn it off, works out pretty well. I think one of the things, just as you're talking about this, man, I would love, and maybe this already exists, but in my smoke detector, listen, on my Ring Cam, I can see what the battery status is. Do they have? I haven't looked at this. Do they have smoke detectors where they're aware? I mean, they're home automation aware, and I can see what the battery level is on this thing.
So so the Nest Protects in the Nest or the Google app, they'll tell you the battery's good or not. So you can get it that way. I haven't seen it in HA. I'll have to look at that and see if they show up there as well.
Yeah.
But the smarter ones, the information is there. and I think my Z-Wave based ones, I think they do as well.
That would be super smart, right? To be able to see, hey, my smoke detectors are at this level, and not just change them on the. I appreciate the Halloween, like that's a great thing to do, but like, hey, this I'm looking at my batteries here. I mean, I have a whole bunch of what's the name of them? I have a whole bunch of humidistats for the cigar areas, right?
Sure.
And they'll just constantly tell me what their batteries are. And now that I'm looking at it, I have two of them where the batteries have died. I need to go in there, using the silver batteries that you go in, right? Get those for a nickel. But I've got a couple as I'm looking at this. Yeah, actually, I need to change some batteries this weekend. So not a bad. I'd love to have that built into my home automation.
I think it's a great idea. So for double A lithiums, I've Energizer's always been kind of the main guy, and I've had great luck with those. They are the most expensive. On Amazon, when I went to order this year, I picked up a 24-pack of Energizers, and they had a really decent introductory price on Rayovac has gotten into lithiums as well. So I've popped some Rayovacs in things like the doors. I'll see how they do there. And then some of the other home automation stuff around the house here, I popped the Rayovacs in those. So we'll see how they go from a comparative point of view.
Yeah, one of the things, and of course, checking the milliamp hours on some of these batteries, you got to kind of what they're rated for. It's a little more complicated. One more thing to check, but that sometimes can be helpful. Yep. And of course, the lowest cost may not always be the best, right?
Yep.
From that standpoint, you may be getting something, looking at this Power Owl, and yeah, it's cheap, but just kind of like, I don't know how long it's going to last, right? From that standpoint. So,
well, and I did, again, as an experiment, I can't see the brand here right now, but I did pick up on Amazon a pack of lithiums to try, and seemed to work really well. And the one door lock started acting up, and sure enough, it takes 4 lithium AA batteries, and one of those batteries went bad. So 3 were still good, so I was able to swap that out. But just kind of my observation on that.
Yeah, no, you know what? Maybe I'll do is pick up a 6-pack or a 12-pack of lithium and try those in the sink. Like I'm always replacing, like that's every 6 months. I always feel like I'm wasting batteries. What from an environmental standpoint, though, I mean, alkaline versus, we're throwing those things in the trash. Right?
I don't know if they're really recycled or not, but we've got these environmental centers locally here, and you can drop them off there. Okay. I hope they're doing something with that other than throwing them away, but I don't know.
Best Buy may have. They still take batteries, don't they?
Yep.
Best Buy? Okay.
They still have the buckets by the doors.
Listen, I have a box of stuff to go to Best Buy. I was cleaning out some things the other day. I have some old parallel hard drives from like some really old machines. I'm like, okay, I had to take these in. And then I was like, should I put a nail through these hard drives? I'm like, no, there's not a person on the planet that has a machine that can actually get this information off. And if there was, it would be 20 years old. So good luck. Enjoy the pictures of my power bills from 20 years ago, type deal. So, well, Kevin, thanks for coming out tonight. Thanks for saying yes to the call on Home Gadget Geeks, and appreciate you coming out tonight. And appreciate you hanging around to do this. Thanks for coming
Absolutely.
Can you hang around while I close this thing up?
You bet.
Okay. Couple reminders on the way out. If you want to join us in the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord, you can, I should say, don't forget, I got Christian coming on here December 4th, I think is something like that. And the theaverageguy.tv platform, both web and media hosting powered by Maple Grove Partners, gets secure, reliable high-speed hosting from folks that you know and you trust. Those guys are doing a bang-up job over there, Maple Grove Partners. They'll do just about anything. Check it out today, maplegrovepartners.com. Christian, thanks for your partnership in that and appreciate it. Next week, this is 662. Next week, 663, Aaron Lawrence and Mike Uyghur. Aaron will be happy to see Mike. Every time I have Aaron on, she says, is Mike coming? I'm like, no, Aaron, it's been a while. Don't rub it in. And so Mike will be on next week, so you'll want to join us. I'm working on McCabe for the 20th. So
nice.
I'm hoping he can come back and join us. I got a question for you, Kevin, before we go. The 28th is Sammy. That's a Friday. So our tradition is the Friday after Thanksgiving here in the United States, which is Thursday the 27th. 28th, Sammy will be here. She's got a lot to update you guys on. So that's my daughter, if you don't know. And so you'll want to be here on the 28th. That's our traditional Friday after Thanksgiving show. And then the 4th of December is Christian Johnson. What was I going to ask you, Kevin? I said I had a question for you. What was I going to say? Shoot. It came and it went. Dang it. You know,
it'll come back.
Getting old. No, it'll never come back.
Yes, we are.
It never comes back. You're like, yeah, that's gone forever. No, I remember. So even though I said it wouldn't, the show with Christian on the 4th is 666. Should I change it? Should I do something to this doesn't seem right to have it? Should I skip it? Kind of thing, that number, it doesn't seem right.
Do a quick Google search because there's a lot of positives to 666 in certain cultures.
Okay.
So it's fine.
Tell me what you think.
And actually, there's a thing that some people question. Well, is it really 666 or is it 999? Because there's a theory that when it was first viewed as being something evil, the person was looking at it upside down. So,
okay,
there's
all right.
There's a variety of things there.
I was looking at a report this morning, and it had 66.6 percentage points. I'm like, you got to change that. I was just joking. I'm like, you got to change that. The afternoon when I looked at the report, it said 66.7. I think they rounded up or some. Yeah. Secret Squirrel says episode 665B.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's that. I'd be good with that.
I like that Secret Squirrel. Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, we are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Love to have you join us as well. And thanks for coming out. For those who joined us tonight, Secret Squirrel, Brian, Joe, Tony. I didn't see Ken tonight, but thanks for coming out. I didn't see John either. I think since he's been on Entertainment 2.0, he may be too good for us now. I heard him the other day on there with Richard and Josh. I don't know, John. Anyways, let me know. We'll stay around for a smidgen of post show. With that, we'll say goodbye.